Hello again, CST 110 team. This is the final section for our lecture on Chapter 2. Let's jump right into how do we improve our perception of others? We understand prejudice exists. There are various types of prejudice and direct results of prejudice, but how do we improve our perception of others? Well, understand that one way to improve is to engage in conscious processing. Remember, when we create first impressions and we automatically jump to conclusions and create a negative impression of someone, remember you may be engaging in automatic processing. You are jumping to subconscious thoughts. Whereas if you engage in conscious processing, you're mindfully going to pay attention to people. You will mindfully become aware of the details they are telling you. You're going to start to question. Maybe this perception of the individual is inaccurate. So, with that said, step 1, use conscious processing. Step 2, question the accuracy of your perception. Understand what you say, what you hear, what you feel, what you may have experienced. Then ask yourself, could I be wrong? What other info should I be aware of? That goes hand in hand with mindfulness. So engaging in automatic processing, remember, that may directly result with stereotypes and discrimination. As a result, to eliminate stereotypes and discrimination, practice conscious processing and question the accuracy of your own perception. Open your mind. Third, realize that perceptions change over time. In other words, you may have met someone back in middle school or high school that may have been a bully, and you meet them 10 years later at a reunion or at a get-together, and you see this person and you think, oh my goodness, I cannot believe you're here. Remember, open your mind and realize that this person may now be the sweetest person you will ever meet. So go ahead, engage, and then form an impression based on the information that you gather. Finally, engage in perception checking. This means that you need to observe stimuli, whether it is what you see, what you hear, in a non-evaluative way, and then offer your possible interpretation. In the event that you are still left wondering whether or not you are forming the right impression, then you may ask questions. Remember our discussion from Chapter 1, especially the activity in class. Feedback matters. Ask for that clarification. So if someone arrived 30 minutes late to your group meeting, let's say you're doing a group project and this person arrives 30 minutes late, perhaps you may think, why are you late? What's going on? Are you irresponsible? So maybe go ahead and think, is this person stuck in traffic? What happened? Go ahead and ask the person, is everything okay? Is there something that our group should know about? Because who knows? That person may have been stuck in traffic or they may have something else going on in their life. So again, engage in that perception checking, ask questions for clarification as opposed to jumping to an evaluative comment. Finally, let's go back to that instance that we saw with the racist comment made to Dr. Navi earlier today. What do you do if you are in a situation where someone addresses a racist comment to you? Or you are in that interaction. Maybe you are listening to that conversation. Maybe you are a nurse to that doctor or another patient. You're sitting in the waiting room. What do you do? Well, some work cultures have created rules or policies to go ahead and protect doctors and make sure that they are not discriminated based on their gender, race, ethnicity, or sexual orientation. So hospitals like Penn State College of Medicine have adopted these policies. However, if an institution or a workplace has not adopted this policy, how do you react? How do you react if the comment is directed at you? And how do you react if you are simply observing the comment happening right in front of you? That's what we'll talk about when we come back to class next time. For now, let's go ahead and wrap up and look at the big picture. Why do these activities, these discussions, our first impressions and perception matter? Well, think about the social construction of self. The social construction of self involves presenting various aspects based on your self-concept and the situation and people you are interacting with. In other words, ask yourself the following questions. How do you communicate in a job interview? Think about the verbal message, the nonverbals that you present versus when you're communicating with your friends. Perhaps in a job interview, you will dress more formally. You will go ahead and use more formal language. You'll give a handshake, a firm handshake, and maybe you might stand up tall to go ahead and demonstrate that confidence. Versus if you're communicating with your friends, you may use slang. You might have your own unique language, your own unique handshake with this individual. Why? Because this is the image that you are presenting based on who you are interacting with. So what I want you to consider is the following. In a few weeks, you will be presenting to your CST 110 peers. And I want you to think, how do you want your peers to perceive you? What image do you want to give to your CST 110 peers? How will you go ahead and design this social construction of self about you? What part of your self-concept do you want to share? Now, on the topic of self-concept, remember, self-concept connects to self-perception. So write these definitions down. Self-perception is the overall view we have of ourselves. That's how we view ourselves. And this is going to include your self-concept and self-esteem. So when you're asking yourself, what is my self-concept? Ask yourself, what are the skills, the abilities, the knowledge, the competency, your personality? Who are you? And this may involve looking at your past self, your present self, and what are your future goals. If you're still not sure what your self-concept is, then go ahead and ask your family and friends, who am I? And they may go ahead and present you with various views of who they think you are. Like, you're an outgoing individual. You're very competitive. Finally, your self-esteem is the evaluation you're going to make about your own worth. It may directly relate to your self-concept, so if you think that you are an outgoing individual, then you may have a positive or high self-esteem. So think of that. Your self-concept and your self-esteem may work hand in hand. In either regard, they contribute to your self-perception. All right, so remember your minor speech is not due next week. It is going to be tentatively due in 2 weeks from today. That would be for my Thursday class. That will be on February 8th, so please keep that in mind. Your minor speech will require you to write a 2-minute speech in which you will design a t-shirt, and the images must be large enough to see and colorful. I will go ahead and share the template on Blackboard when we return to class. You will introduce yourself, you give us your name, and then you'll tell us 5 symbols that represent you or your self-concept. So you'll want to dedicate about 20 seconds to describe each symbol. So let's say that cheese is a big part of your life. You love cheese. Instead of just saying, I love cheese, and going to your next symbol, you'll want to give us details on why do you love cheese? What type of cheese? So give us more information. And then when you're wrapping up your speech, don't just say, all right, that's it, I'm done. Make it memorable, because remember, this is your chance to make an impression. So take that concept of social construction of self, how you want others to perceive you, and create an impression for your peers. It may be a memorable quote that you love to live by, or just one thing you want your audience members to remember you by. When we return to class, I'll also give you additional tips to help you with practicing the delivery of your message. For now, you can start thinking about the symbols that you're going to include. Remember, you'll include up to 5 symbols on your shirt, and you'll need to design a 2-minute speech. The template for your shirt is up on Blackboard. It will be on a sheet of paper, not a PowerPoint, so you are welcome to get started on that. It will not be due next week. Please remember that. It is not due next week. We'll go ahead and postpone that for 2 weeks from today. Final items to review. Please remember to know the stages of perception. Understand the stages of perception. So review that in Chapter 2. Additionally, remind yourself about that social construction of self and presenting the different aspects of your self-concept based on the situation and people. Finally, today we would have created an activity in which you would have interviewed your peers And you would have gained information as to how you can create a positive first impression or break the ice with someone. So for my students that asked me, I need help with feeling more comfortable in front of new people. How do I start a conversation? Well, today's activity in class would have helped us with that. And because I don't want you to miss out on this information, I'm going to upload the questions that you can use to break the ice with just about anyone you meet. So you are welcome to go ahead and review this document titled Interview Time under the Makeup Class tab on Blackboard. And again, this will help you to gain confidence when you are engaging with interpersonal interactions, especially with new people. So take a look at that information. So what's coming up next? All right, so you've listened to the Chapter 2 recorded lecture series. There were 3 lecture clips to listen to. This is the last one. Your next task is to complete the Chapter 2 makeup quiz. That quiz will be worth 10 points. Similar to other quizzes, it will consist of 20 minutes for you to complete. There will be 5 questions, multiple choice, true, false, and 1 question which will ask to enter the keyword from the lecture, which will be provided very soon. So a total of 6 questions for 10 points. We will continue moving on. Like I said, the speech is not next week. Instead, we will focus on Chapter 6, which is the listening chapter. So please review the questions for Chapter 6, and please complete discussion board number 2. So this week, your hybrid activities will include completing that makeup quiz for Chapter 2 and discussion board 2. You will need to write a minimum of 2 paragraphs for this discussion board in which you will address both the listening quiz. So you'll take a quiz to figure out how effective you are as a listener, and then you'll go ahead and describe what are some barriers to listening that you experience. In the second paragraph, you will address the perfect listener, where you will tell me about one person in your life that is an effective listener. It can be a family member, a friend, a coworker, a supervisor, an advisor, a teacher, anyone. So go ahead and tell me who this person is, and then tell me what verbal and nonverbal cues they use to show you that they are listening to you. If you need any help finding an effective listener, please let me know so that you can complete this section for your response. Finally, as always, remember to spell check and grammar check your response. Use keywords from the textbook, and please give me examples. So you don't just want to go ahead and say, I might be a time-oriented listener, and that prevents me from listening effectively. Give me an example as to why time orientation may not be the best for you in all situations. So, for my Thursday class, remember, your discussion board number 2 is going to be due on Monday. The quiz, the makeup quiz, will also be due on Monday. And for your feedback, you'll provide feedback to 2 peers, 1 paragraph per peer. That will be due on Wednesday. So we keep the calendar rolling. I will make updates to the tentative schedule so you have that ready to go, and we minimize any confusion. All right, final word for you. The key word for the makeup quiz is mindfulness. mindfulness. Please spell it correctly so you don't lose any points on that question. This will be worth 5 points on the quiz. Enter this keyword, and remember, practice mindfulness the next time you meet someone. Take care, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.